Morning students. Today we will have another lecture of theory of machine, and today's topic which we are going to discuss is brakes. So starting from the definition of brake. What is a brake? So while going through the definition, we have seen that a brake is a device by means of which frictional resistance is applied to a moving machine member in order to retard or stop the motion of a machine. That means a brake is a device, it is a form of device which is mainly applied to a moving machine. That means the machines which are in a motion, the brakes is mostly applied to those members in order to retard or stop the machine. That means either we have to slow down the motion of that object or the speed of that object, or in order to completely stop the motion of that object. So if we have to retard the motion or completely stop the motion, then we applies a brake. For better example, we have obviously knows that in our motorcycles or cars or buses, trucks, that means in all automobile sectors, brake are the most essential features as to stop the vehicle or to retard the motion. So how this brake works? So I have written in the first line that a brake is a device by means of which frictional resistance is applied. That means a certain amount of frictional force is being applied to the moving machine to stop. So the ultimate force that retard or stop the machine, that is frictional resistance. So how this brake works? So in this process, the brake absorbs either kinetic energy or potential energy of the object. That means if the machine is moving, that times kinetic energy is being absorbed or the potential energy being dissipated by that moving machine. That means in case of lift or elevators or accelerators, at that time potential energy of that object is being dissipated, and it is being dissipated in the form of heat. That means the amount of kinetic energy or potential energy being absorbed is being dissipated in the form of heat, which is ultimately dissipated in the surrounding air. And ultimately the absorbed heat which is dissipated in the form of heat being dissipated in the surrounding air, so that there will be no effect of heat in the brake lining or brake drum or brake shoe. Otherwise it will ultimately hamper the brake, or it will destroy the brake, and the durability or the tendency of the brake will minimize, or the durability will ultimately least to the amount. So that's why this amount of heat is being dissipated in the surrounding air. So now we will discuss what are the types of brake. So the next topic is what are the types of brake that are being used. So the mainly brakes are classified into three types. That is, first one is hydraulic brake, second one is electric brake, and third one is mechanical brakes. So hydraulic brakes, that means where hydraulic fluids are being used to apply the brake. That the examples for that is pumps. The electric brake is those brakes, that means in which the electric current is being applied for the application of the brake. That for the example is generator. So mostly pumps are used. In pumps hydraulic brakes are used. In generators electric brakes are used. Now coming to the third one, that is mechanical brake, and it is the most variant or most widely used brakes. That is one mechanical, since in hydraulic and electric brakes the amount of motion or force being applied to stop the motion of the brake, that will definitely neither of the cases it completely stop the machine, rather it retard the amount of motion, and the machine takes a lot of time to completely come to the rest position. But whereas in case of mechanical brakes, the amount of motion, force being applied to the brakes completely provide the moving machine to come to a rest position with an instant amount. So in IC engines or in our automobile vehicles, most of the cases we use mechanical brakes. So the mechanical brakes is mainly classified into two types. That is, first one is radial brake and second one is axial brake. So what is a radial brake? I have written a simple line, that is the force acting on brake drum in radial direction. If the force acting on brake drum in radial direction, then that type of brake will be known as radial brake. The example for radial brake is shoe brake and band brake. Whereas the axial brake, that is the force acting on brake drum in axial direction. That means if the force acting in radial direction, that will be known as radial brake. If the force acting in axial direction, that will be known as axial brake. And for this, the example are disc brake and cone brake. So we'll start our discussion from shoe brake. So let's start what are shoe brakes, how this the force is being applied on shoe brake, how it applies, all the different type of mechanism of shoe brake we'll discuss on the next topic. So let's start with shoe brake. So what is shoe brake? Basically, a shoe brake consists of a block or shoe which is pressed against the rim of a revolving brake wheel drum. We'll show you this by diagram and it will clarify you more further. And what are the uses? These are mainly used in railway trains and tram cars. So I have just basic direction that it have a block or shoe which is being pressed against a rim of a revolving brake. That means there is a wheel drum, there is a block, and that is fixed in a single position and it is pressed against the rim, and it is mostly used in railway trains and tram cars. So now we will discuss by diagram what are the shoe brakes, how it is being applied, and what are the applications. So let give you the diagram of shoe brake. So this is the general diagram of a shoe brake. So you have gone through this, that this is the rotating wheel, this is the block, that is I have written here rigidly mounted block, this is I have written as a wheel, and here is the force, that is Ft. So what is Ft? So before starting the discussion of brake, I have already told you that on applying brake we have to apply a artificial frictional resistance. So that means the frictional force is being applied on the motion of that object to retard its motion or to stop it completely. That means the frictional force is being applied for the application of the brake. So here Ft is the braking force that is being applied to completely stop the motion of the machine or to retard the motion of the machine. So here is the force, that is the frictional force, that will be denoted as Ft. So now coming, this is the completely wheel, so whose radius is denoted by r. The angle between this is given by 2 theta, and here I have written Rn. Rn is what? Rn is the normal force acting on that object, and through that there is a fixed fulcrum, that is O. O is a point, which is a fulcrum, which is a fixed fulcrum. And since the wheel, on this wheel the block is pressed, so to balance that, at the end of this lever, that is from this, the length of the lever is denoted by L. This is completely a lever. So one end of the lever, a force is being applied as to balance the lever, that is denoted by P. So the length of the lever will be L, and the fulcrum point is O. The one end force to balance it is denoted by P. The Ft is the braking torque, R is the radius, theta is the angle, Rn is the normal force, and X is the point. That means the from fulcrum to the mid of the wheel, that point distance is denoted by X. So we have drawn two figures. That means first one is, you can see the diagram, the arrow, that is the clockwise direction of brake wheel. That means when the wheel will rotate in clockwise direction, and the second was arrow is denoted here, and here written anti-clockwise direction of brake wheel. That means the brake wheel will move in an anti-clockwise direction. So on this direction change, there will be one change in the complete observation, that will be the braking force, that is the frictional force or braking force, that is Ft. Direction of Ft will change. So here in clockwise direction it is denoted in rightward direction, and while it is taken as anti-clockwise direction, then the Ft direction is changes to left side. So on changing the direction of the brake wheel, only the direction of Ft will change. So now coming back to the calculation part, how this braking torque or braking force can be calculated. So now considering if the angle of contact, that means 2 theta, is less than 60 degree, then the normal pressure between block and wheel will be uniform. That means if the angle will be exceed than that means more than 60 degree, then there will be another observation I will discuss you later on. So if the angle between the contact is less than 60 degree, then we can assume that the normal pressure and the block will be in uniform motion. Hence the braking force can be calculated by Ft, that will be mu into Rn. We have already discussed in our previous topics, that is the force of friction can be given by formula mu into Rn, where mu is the coefficient of friction and Rn is the normal reaction. And braking torque can be calculated by Tb equals to Ft into R, that means force into perpendicular distance, and that will be denoted as mu into Rn into R, where R is the radius of the wheel. So I hope you understand till now. Now we will discuss that I have written a point, that is angle of contact is less than 60 degree. So if angle of contact raises, then what will happen? So if the angle of contact will not be less than 60 degree, then there will be possibilities that the fulcrum O, here you can see that the fulcrum O is along the line of braking force, here also along the line of braking force. So if the angle varies, then the fulcrum will also vary. That means all the time the fulcrum will not along the axis of braking force. It can be above the braking force or it can be below the braking force. So we'll observe 3 cases. What are the possibilities of the position of fulcrum, and we will find out at each position what will be the braking force and braking torque. So starting from initial position, that means when the braking force and the fulcrum will be along the same line. So here we observe the first case, that means when Ft passes through fulcrum O of the lever. That means in the diagram we can see that the Ft and O is along the line of action. That means both are in a same line. So, and we are taking the first case, that means the brake wheel will move in a clockwise direction. So now solving for the braking force and torque. So now taking moment along about O, that means the taking moment about the fulcrum O. So when taking moment about O, we see that there are 3 forces acting. That is, first one is Rn, second one is P, and third one is Ft. Since Ft is along the line O and there is no perpendicular direction, that means perpendicular axis or perpendicular distance for the force Ft, so this will not be taken for the calculation part, and or rather we can say that it will ultimately becomes 0. So we'll only catch 2 forces, that is Rn and P. So while taking, we can see that for Rn we can see the direction of Rn is along upward, and the point O, the force Rn and the 2 point O, the distance given is x. So this x will be the perpendicular distance for Rn. That's why I have written as Rn into x, that is force into perpendicular distance. Now for the force P, it is along the downward direction, and the distance between O and P is given by the whole length of the lever. That's why I have written is P into L. Now you can see that both are written is one is at left hand side of equal to and another is right hand side of equal to. That means both direction are different. Why? Because Rn direction is upward direction and P is in along downward direction. That's why both are written at the other side of the equal to sign. So now calculating, you can see that Rn equals to P into L, and it is in multiply form, so it will go to the divide sector, that will divided by x. Now calculating the braking torque, that is denoted by Tb. So Tb will be mu into Rn into R. That means mu into Rn means what? Mu into Rn means braking force, that is Ft. So Ft into R. So mu into Rn into R. We can put the value of Rn from here, that will be mu into P into L by X. We have put the value of Rn into R, and accumulatively we can see mu into P into L into R by X. Here we can see that if the wheel, we have taken here the case when the wheel will rotate in clockwise direction. If the wheel will rotate in anti-clockwise direction at that time also, the braking torque will not vary and it will be same as in clockwise direction, and that will be given by mu PLR by X. So in the case when the braking force, that is Ft, passes through fulcrum O, at these scenarios the braking torque in clockwise and anti-clockwise direction, both cases are same, and it is been given by mu into P into L into R by X. I hope you understand the first case. Now we will go through our second case. Now coming to the second case, that means when Ft passes through a distance A below fulcrum O. That means the Ft and O are not along the same line, rather the O is point distance A above the Ft. Here I have written that distance is given here is A. That so the vertical distance A, that means the distance between point O and this Ft force is given by A. So the fulcrum O is above, or I can say the Ft is below distance A of the fulcrum. So this is our second case. And now taking the first one, that means the wheel will rotate in clockwise direction. Now taking the moment, same procedure you have to follow in each cases, the same procedure, that means taking moment about point O. So now in the previous case we have seen that we have two forces, only we have taken two forces. That one is the vertically downward force P at the end of the lever which is acting, and the normal force, that is Rn. But here since Ft force have also a perpendicular distance A, so we will take the Ft force also. That means in this case we will have to consider three type of forces. So taking moment about point O, we can see that Rn is vertically upward, so while going through it will move like this, that means anti-clockwise direction. So we have put that Rn into X, the distance between point O and Rn is given by X, so the perpendicular distance will be X. So I have written Rn into X in plus direction, positive sign, since Rn will move like this and it is a anti-clockwise direction. Now coming back to the second force, that is Ft. Again we have to reach the point O. The force Ft is along this direction, so you have to reach the point O, and the Ft is along this direction, then Ft will move like again this, that means again in anti-clockwise direction. So we will have take the position, since Rn and Ft both are along same direction, so we have taken this direction as a positive one, so Ft is also taken as positive, and we have given a positive sign in between this, and the perpendicular distance for Ft is A, so Ft into A. Now coming back to the P, so it will move like this direction, that means clockwise direction, so it is written at the right hand side of the equal to sign, or we can write it as also minus PL equals to 0 or equals to PL, both are same. So and the perpendicular distance for the force P is L, so P into L. I am again repeating the same thing. Why this Rn into X and Ft into A is taken as positive while P into L is taken as negative? There is no certain case that you have to take this positive and this negative. You can take PL into P into L as positive and both these two as negative. We can take either clockwise as positive or anti-clockwise as positive. I've already discussed in your previous subject, that is in mechanics. Nonetheless, I am repeating once again. Since Rn and Ft, both these moments are in an anti-clockwise direction, so I have taken in this case the anti-clockwise direction as positive. That's why Rn into X and Ft into A is taken in positive direction. Whereas I have taken in this case the clockwise direction is negative. That's why P into L is taken as negative, whereas thereafter, which is minus into PL equals to 0, or directly you can write equals to P into L. Or you can take any case, either this as positive or that as positive, it's up to you. So ultimately it will give a equation like this. Whatever you will take as positive, negative, at the last it will give a equation like this. I hope you understand till now. Now while solving this, we know the formula of Ft, that is braking force, is written as mu into Rn. So simply I put in place of Ft mu into Rn, and other are same as above. Now taking common Rn from both these two statements, that is Rn equals to x plus mu equals to p into L. On solving we get Rn equals to p into L by x plus mu a. Now calculating the braking torque, so we know the formula of braking torque, Tb equals to mu into Rn into R, that means Ft into R. We have simply putting the value of Rn here and this will provide you the braking torque. So this is the case of clockwise direction. If we will consider the anti-clockwise direction, then there will be certain simple change in the formula of braking torque, that will be in plus of, in case of plus sign, there will have to put a negative sign, otherwise all the other things will be same, that will be mu into pl into r, mu into pl into r, x plus mu a, either in case we will write as x minus mu a. So why we write here plus and here minus? Since I have already discussed while discussing the definition of shoe brake, that when we'll take the clockwise direction, the active direction will be along along the right hand side, and if we take the anti-clockwise direction, then the active direction will be along the left hand side. So if it will be along the left hand side, so while taking the moment, it will give us a clockwise moment. So while taking clockwise moment, Ft into L will write in the right hand side of the equal to sign, hence it will provide a negative direction of here. So you can take this as Rn into x plus Ft into A in the right hand side. If you will solve through that, then you will get a negative sign over here. I hope you understand how it is being calculated. Simply in anti-clockwise direction, the direction of Ft will change, will ultimately provide you a negative sign. Now coming back to the third case. That means when Ft passes through a distance A above the fulcrum O, that means Ft, here the fulcrum O, here the Ft, a line of action of Ft, and it is Ft is a distance is given by a distance A by above the point O, that means here fulcrum O is below a distance A from Ft. So now taking moment, we have to along same procedure as above. Now taking moment about point A. So while taking moment about point A, we will have three forces Rn, Ft and P. Here Rn is above the point Y, that means it is in upward direction. So while taking point O, we have to take the moment about point O. So Rn have to reach point O. So for that it will have to go through a anti-clockwise moment, where Ft and P both have to reach in this direction. So these both will a clockwise moment. So now taking moment about point O, Rn into x is equals to P into L plus Ft into L. Why I have written this at left hand side of equal to sign, and both these at right hand side of equal to sign, since Rn have to go through a anti-clockwise moment to reach point O, whereas Ft and P will have to go through a clockwise moment to reach point O. That's why both are written at other side of equal to sign. Since either we can write at each side, and that time we'll have to write Rn into x minus P into L minus F2 into A equals to 0. You can write as I have mentioned here, or you can write as single side of equal to sign, but you have to give the positive and negative side appropriately. So now solving this, we can see that we have putting this and left hand side, that is Rn into x minus F2 into A equals to P into L. We will assign the value of Ft, that is mu into Rn. So now taking common Rn, that will give us x minus mu A, and Rn in common, and equals to P into L. On solving, Rn equals to P into L by x by P into L divided by x minus mu A. Now braking torque will be mu into Rn into R, that will be mu into PL into R by x minus mu A. Same in anti-clockwise direction, only this negative sign will change into a positive one, since the Ft direction will again change into this. So we'll have the same scenario as in the above previous case, but we'll have to sign, that means the positive sign replaces by negative here, and here negative sign replaces by positive 1. I hope I have already given you the notes for the same, so go through this and go through this video lecture, and I hope you'll understand all the three cases of the shoe brake. So here I am ending my session for shoe brake. We will discuss about the bend brake in our next class. So thank you for attention in the class.